It's talent and passion.
Okay.
It's the mix between talent and passion. I start writing when I was 5 years old. So
Oh,
my
wow.
mother all the time telling the story that I start taking paper and I write when I was 5 years. This is one. Two, I don't know how and why, but I'm reading and reading and reading and reading. I have all the time, even when I'm exhausted with work, engineering, physics, and other scientific work. But reading novels and reading literature from all over the global, it's in my DNA.
Hi, friends. This is Read and Write with Natasha podcast. My name is Natasha Tynes, and I'm an author and a journalist. In this channel, I talk about the writing life, review books, and interview authors. Hope you enjoy the journey. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Read and Write with Natasha. Today, I'm very happy to have with me author Arif Husseini, who is an electrical engineer by training, also a physicist and a novelist from Jerusalem, Palestine. He is the author of a number of novels published in English and Arabic, including Shabbat Goy and Relative Taboo. His novels are inspired from his upbringing in the eastern part of Jerusalem. So, Arif, welcome. So happy to have you here. And I'm so excited to talk to an author from Jerusalem. I read your book. It's Shabbat Goy or Kafir Sabt in Arabic, and it was fascinating. So, Arif, can you please tell us and tell anyone who's listening or watching, what's this novel about exactly? Specifically, this one that's been translated into English, Shabbat Goy. So the floor is yours.
Thank you first. Thank you, Natasha, for the interview. And it's a great opportunity to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy New 2023. Shabbat Goy, it's a novel which coming from Jerusalem. It's a novel of the streets, the stones, the old city, the people, the life in East Jerusalem. I was witness to what happened in the city for the last at least 25 years. So through this journey, with all the circumstances in East Jerusalem, in Palestine in particular, but in East Jerusalem more and more, I was witness to the changes in the political situation, from the first Intifada to the peace period and peace process, including Oslo Accords, to the second Intifada until today. So I decided to write 3 novels, one after the other, expressing the daily life of Jerusalemites, how we live under all of this situation, with the status quo, without the status quo, and we will talk about it. So Shabbat Goy is the first part of the 3 novels in series, talking about and very important to mention, in a black humor, to laugh a little bit about what's happening with the discrimination, with the life of Arabs, Palestinians, Christians, and Muslims in East Jerusalem. So it's exploring the daily life of Jerusalemites, how they deal with the occupational forces, how they deal with the state which came and occupied their territory, and the small things that we are facing in our daily life that reflect all the emotions and all the how we get to be as a humans. From the other side, I tried as well to reflect some personalities from the Israeli community and how Palestinians and Israelis, through this conflict, managed to have if we can name it normal life. But
Hmm.
I know, everyone knows, in the end of the day, it's a very special situation and unique circumstances that we are living in. No peace, no war, daily conflict, and at least 300,000 people being in the curfew between the separation wall around Jerusalem, and trying to find their identity and to stick to their roots and origin.
Fascinating. So the main character of this novel is starts with a young guy, coming of age in Jerusalem. His name is Nabi. Uh, are you Nabi? Is this an auto? Is this an autobiography? I mean, you don't have to answer this, but how do you relate? What's
No,
the relationship between you?
I am familiar actually with this question, but the answer that I wish to be Nabi, but no, Nabi is one of the very talented and innovative Jerusalemites. He tried to look at things from positive point of views, to find solutions all the time for his challenges, dealing with the political, economical, social situation in the city. I think Nabi is existing in every house in East Jerusalem. And in one of the conferences in the city, Shabbat Goy is a very frank and honest, I think, from my point of view, from my perspective, novel that reflecting the reality. This is the reality. I know that everybody through literature want to be a hero and want to look like sitting in perfect shape and life. But Shabbat Goy is telling the story of the people as it is. So one day in one conference in East Jerusalem, someone was against really against the novel. So why you are talking about those who are stealing from the hospitals? Or why you are talking about some bad habits that been developed through 50 years of occupation? Why you are not mentioning the engineers and the doctors and the educated people and all of the heroes that we have in the society? And then I didn't answer, but someone else from the public came and say, just in the 500 people in this hall, who has no Nabi in his house?
Mm.
So Nabi is there. This is actually turned to be the norm, the average Palestinian living in the city. But I tried to build his personality as a normal guy, getting, some hobbies and benefits from the situation that he's living in, and try to have it as the standardized Jerusalemite who is maintaining his resilience in the city.
Fascinating. So, which now begs the question, how was the novel perceived by both? I am very familiar with the concept of airing our dirty laundry. Even in my novel, which was set in Amman, Jordan, I got the same criticism. Why are you showing that, we're like this? Like I talked about the lack of water, like all of the problems that we have. Why are you showing like this? And I know this Arab pride, and I'm sure you got, as you mentioned, you got criticized for that. What about the other side? The Israeli side, or the Jewish side. What was the reaction, especially using a religious, let's say, term in your novel, which is Shabbat Qoy, which is fascinating. Honestly, very few people outside of that region know about it. So, what was the reaction from the other side, if you got any?
Let me start with with the meaning of Shabbat Goy. Shabbat, and from there I will tell you what the criticism was, and how they, because it's controversial. There is no one opinion in the Israeli Jewish community about the novel. But Shabbat Goy is the guy who is not Jew and serving Jewish people during Shabbat. Shabbat, it's from Saturday, Friday sunset until Saturday sunset. And during these 24 hours, Orthodox Jews are not allowed to do many things, like turn on the electricity, warming up food, dealing with money, driving cars. So they using a service of a not Jew, who is Goy in the Judaism as term, and he is serving them to do these things during Shabbat, during Saturday. And I choose this name because from my point of view, we as Palestinians, from the end of the first Intifada until today, we turn to be Shabbat goys. We turn to be serving the Israelis as a cheap labor hand in the Israeli markets, especially in Jerusalem. Crossing the road, the main street between East and West Jerusalem, and our young generation in particular, they moved from ambitious to higher education and to be well established with a sophisticated career, to be very simple servants, workers, labor hand in the Israeli services market. So and this actually, in this term, you are summarizing where we are standing today in this period of our history. In the Jewish community, there are many opinions. Orthodox, for sure, they're against, and they have many criticism because living in denial, it's comfortable. And somehow, just to imagine that the other is not existed, even if he's working for us on Shabbat, but we don't want to see him or her. This is a very comfortable and very easy decision to make, and it's denial, it's criticism. This is not existed. We have no relationship even with Arabs and Palestinians. Not that we are treating them well, but they are not exist. The other side in the spectrum of the Israeli society, the left wing, who get to be now in Israel and in Jerusalem very minimum. They decreased and they almost disappeared. Now in the Israeli spectrum, it's hardly to find left wing. It's hardly to find people who are still believing in peace, still believing of coexistence. So, but yet there are some who feel guilty when they read such a novel, and they contacted me. Many of them, they contacted me to have some workshops to talk about the novel here and there, because it's eye-opening for them. And they never know about the situation in East Jerusalem. They want to promote some peace processes and to be, behind having Palestinian literature, Arab literature disseminated within the Israeli community. But still, they have many concerns about, is it true? Is it the situation? We know it's bad, but is it up to this level? And here no one can understand until you come and see, right? Exactly what we discussed before, that any visit to the city will make you really understand the reality and what's happening around. So the majority of the Jewish readers, they prefer to be on the position of denial and not accepting what's written there, laughing, enjoying the black humor, looking at the Arab society from a very narrow perspective. But in general, the message behind the novel is irrelevant for them. And very small group of them who still, maybe this is the last generation, who have some left wing and peace promoters. They want to see it more disseminated and published even in Hebrew, and they asked, some of them asked me to translate it to Hebrew. Maybe it will be the coming project.
So, are there still Arabs who work as Shabbat goys currently?
Oh, they increase more and more. You know, it's this is in the need now, especially in Jerusalem, because Jerusalem turned to be fully Orthodox religious city. You know, in the Israeli side of in the West Jerusalem, Israeli side of Jerusalem, before maybe 10, 12, 15 years, they had around 20-30% non-Orthodox, and you know, Israelis who are liberal, but now in the last decade, the Orthodox religious community enlarged and increased, and all the liberal Israelis left Jerusalem to Tel Aviv and to other cities, and this is a struggle in East Jerusalem, in Jerusalem now. So it's more and more, and you can find Shabbat goys in neighborhoods on Shabbat. You can find them in hospitals. You can find them in any services, in institution. You can, you know, everywhere where you need to operate. But it's Saturday, so we are there.
How do you apply to become one? Like, what's the process? And
it's not a process. It's a job.
Okay.
Mainly people who are, you know, looking for extra income, because it's only in weekends. You could not, you know, live from being Shabbat goy. But then you develop relationship with the neighborhood. For instance, you know, if there is a goy Shabbat goy in a very Orthodox neighborhood, so there are some relationships that we developed during Saturday, during Shabbat. So when they need something during the week, most probably they will call you. So a lot of services, maintenance, any other jobs that could be relevant. And now, you know, as you know, the Palestinian community in general, we are in love with education, right?
Yeah.
And now we are pushing our kids to go and be educated more and more. So Shabbat goy tend to be a famous job for students, because it's weekends, they pay well. No universities on Shabbat, you know, on the weekends. So students like to take this job, and it's there. Yeah.
Fascinating. Do they get criticized by the community for, you know, working as?
Not really. No.
Not really.
No, it's a job. It's a job. In the end of the day, it is a job. It's like, you know, we have 200,000 workers working in Israel every day, from West Bank even, not from the Arab sector and Jerusalem.
Yeah.
So they are working in Israel in daily basis. You know, let's face the reality, Natasha. It's a small country with two different people and the two different standards and living standards. And in the end of the day, everyone wants to come back to his home with some bread to eat, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a challenging, you know, no one can depend on himself. Even Israelis, they are selling to the Palestinian and Arab markets. They have cooperation. You know, economical life could not be separated, especially in a city like Jerusalem, which we call mixed city, because, you know, in the end of the day, there are no borders between East and West Jerusalem post, 1967 war. So, legal speaking, it's one city, and people mix here and there. Fortunately, we are, as Arab Palestinians, we are the underprivileged part of this city and the less educated, not because we lack something, but we lack democracy, we lack equity. It's all because the discrimination and discriminated policies against Palestinians in the city. And, you know, no one can close his eyes and ignore the occupational policies that force people to immigrate. You know, those who has some privileged or good, well education, and they have opportunities, they leave the city. to the West Bank, to out to another cities in Israel maybe, and the majority leaving to the United States, to Europe, and to other Western countries. And in the end of the day, you stuck inside the city with the underprivileged population.
So I want to talk about your entry into being a novelist. I mean, when I Googled you, like you're a very well accomplished, physician and engineer. So what got you into being a novelist in the first place? And how do you manage your job as an engineer and being a novelist with a number of books published?
Oh, very good question indeed. It's talent and passion.
Okay.
It's the mix between talent and passion. I start writing when I was 5 years old. So my mother all the time telling the story that I start taking paper and I write when I was 5 years. This is one. Two, I don't know how and why, but I'm reading and reading and reading and reading. I have all the time, even when I'm exhausted with work, engineering, physics, and other scientific work, but reading novels and reading literature from all over the globe, it's in my DNA. So at certain age, reading for decades and having the talent of writing to myself, I felt that it's time to take everything out, because it's somehow kind of therapy. I don't know if you agree with me.
I do.
But expressing your feelings on papers and having it as innovative work published and available for everybody, it's a therapy for me, and it makes me satisfied that this message of what my people facing delivered to other parts of the global, especially when it was my first novel. It was translated to English, published in English. I felt the satisfaction of, now someone who is fully ignorant, knows nothing about our cause, will read, if he interested, a novel to enjoy literature and understand what we are passing through. Maybe it will be part of our advocacy and self-help to change the reality. So yeah, it's reading, it's talent, it's passion, and it's a political message as well.
So how many authors from East Jerusalem published similar novels in English besides you? I mean, I read a lot of Arab and Palestinian novels, or by Arab Palestinian Americans, and I think this is sort of the first time that I read something that tackles growing up in East Jerusalem. Do you know of other authors, especially in English, or in Arabic, that's in translation?
Maybe another one or two, but not in my age.
Okay.
So, Mahmoud Shukir, for instance, he was translated to many languages, including English, but I owe him all the respect. I learned a lot from him, but Mahmoud Shukir is almost 80 years old, and he is from that generation that started as a teacher and worked in the political arena for decades, and he developed his views and wrote many novels and books. Once he has tens of books published in Arabic in the Arab world, then he won 2 or 3 awards. One of them, it was to translate his books. Taking the initiatives like what I did and to do the work by myself, it needs a lot of commitment from one side and some resources as well, and dedication. In the end of the day, it's very hard to find publishers in the English language for Arab Palestinian authors. We are facing this challenge all the time, because being an author in the Arab world, it's not a career. You know that, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
will never live from writing novels and books in the Arab world. And approaching Western world with your local stories, sometimes it's not attractive. Maybe the Palestinian Jerusalem cause, because of the conflict, because a little bit you will find someone to buy and read.
Yeah.
But local novels from different Arab countries are not really the ones that publishers will run and try to find it and translate it and publish it. So it's very challenging. It's very demanding. It's a very big responsibility that usually publishing houses taking on their shoulders. For me, when I approached many publishing houses in the United States and in Europe, in the UK in particular, some of them at the beginning were very positive, especially when they received a copy of the novel and they read it and they found it interesting. But I started to face some requests to change the narrative. And for me, as I told you, it's a political message as well. As a son of this city, I could not, I could not deal even with some requests to change the end, to be, to reflect another, to make it short, to sell, to promote and sell illusions.
Yeah.
And it's not. I know that some writers and authors can go with it. For me, it's a principle that I could not break. So at the end of the day, I decided to have it as self-publishing and publish it by myself, the English version, and try to disseminate it and to take it to distribution networks and have it all over, especially inside Israel and Western countries. But it's a very hard mission. I do all my talent treatment, which is writing, in very early hours of the day, because I still need to go out and earn my salary and to be able to live. So it is a challenge. And hopefully one day things will be changed and the Arab world will look different.
So the Arabic version, you got a publisher, right?
It's the most famous publishing house, Dar al-Shuruq, and it's one of the very famous publishing houses in the Arab world. We had 3 editions until now. One more secret: the first novel being faked and reprinted without intellectual properties, and people can find it on the streets everywhere. And this is one of the, for me, it is one of the indicators that it was successful. But still, this is another issue, Natasha, in the Arab world: intellectual properties. We don't have intellectual properties laws in most of our Arab countries, in Palestine as well. So you invest years and years, and I am very slow, I admit. I am very slow in writing. It takes me 4 to 5 years to publish a novel, sometimes more. Now, the third one, it took me until now 6 years, and I need another at least 1 year to complete. And in the end, someone just come and take it and reprint and publish, which is really, really sad.
So how did you get the book deal? Did you approach them, or I know in the Arab world there are no agents. So how did that? So how did that work out for you?
Well,
I'm just curious.
It was by accident. I had a dinner with one of my very best friends. He is a singer and a musician. He is a composer as well. Walid Abdel Salam, if you heard about him, he used to be very famous in the 90s. And during the dinner, I told him that I accomplished my first novel. It went through some grammar review and language editing, and I prefer to keep it at house, at home. I don't want to take it out. Then he asked me to read the draft. For me, I said, okay, yalla, take. I gave him the draft. 2 days later on, he said, oh, 2 days, I had no chance even to drop the novel from my hands. It's exciting, it's motivating, it's giving you the feeling that you want to continue reading. And this is a special feeling that no one can ignore. I will take it to publishing house. And actually, he contacted the publishing house. He sent the draft to the publishing house. And suddenly I received a phone call from them saying, we are interested. Let's set to talk about details. But it's not there is no profit from such a work. It's almost for free, giving the novel, and they publish, they sell, because book and author's situation in the Arab world is not something that you can do business from.
So the English version, you use the Amazon KDP platform, correct? Right. So did you have to hire a translator, an editor? How did you find them? I'm getting into the technicality because this is kind of helpful for anyone who wants to do that. So sometimes I ask technical questions. So how did the process work?
This is important, but this is the benefit of a friend raising.
Yeah, friend raising
and not fundraising. I learned in my life. Okay. I learned in my life that the most important skill that you have to acquire and to have in your genes, even, it's how to make friends and how to friend raise. Okay. Lucky me, I have a very good group of friends. Some of them are editors, some of them are translators. One of them is a librarian in Harvard for many years.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So I did the translation process in steps. First, I had to take it from Arabic to English.
Okay.
Then I had to do the compatibility, let's say, and the customization of the English language to serve the Arabic and the domestic context, because this was how you translate jokes.
Yeah.
So, or you have a similar joke in English, or you just try to find a way that it's heard well. If not, you have to cancel it. No way to translate jokes that no one will understand, right? So after this phase of customization, localization, trying to adapting the language, I had to find an editor. So I found 3 editors, 2 with Arabic language, so they can understand both. But the last one, Lucy, she is the librarian in Harvard. She know nothing about Arabic, and nothing about the culture as well, and nothing about the jokes. So when she received the 4th edition, the 4th draft, she worked very hard to make it understandable and smooth reading to English readers who are not part of the Arab culture and they have no clue about the Arabic version. I think after reading myself the English version, so in maybe 80-85%, she was successful.
And did you put it yourself on KDP, or did you have to hire someone to do that?
As engineer, technology is the easiest part of the business. So I put it on KDP and on Amazon, and I tried to do some promotion work, but unfortunately, in this part, I am not successful yet.
Yeah. I mean, that was my second question. Like, how are you marketing the book? There's
I'm a very, very bad salesman. I think all authors like me. It's not only me. All
Yeah,
because
yeah.
because of that, we are not good in making money, right? We are not very successful.
Yeah, I mean, you can hire like a PR or an independent marketing person that can help you. I interviewed a number of book marketers that work with authors, so that's always an
Wallah, Natasha,
option.
please, if you have good contact, just send them to me.
Definitely.
I will do that immediately because I tried social media, having a page on Facebook, on Twitter, on tweeting every.
Yeah,
But when it's not your business, so it's like you are on fire for, I don't know, couple of days, and after that you return to your normal life and nothing
yeah.
happens.
It's
And
it's
and
a,
this
it's a
way keep
strategy. Yeah.
insisting. Yeah, yeah.
It's a strategy. They can help you come up with a whole strategy. So yeah, definitely, I'll happy to recommend
Please.
some people who can help you. So who inspired you? Like, as authors, we always get inspired or like steal from other authors in the beginning, and then we adapt them. So who do you think you influence your writing the most, whether it's an Arab or a Western author?
It's not only one, to tell you the truth. Not only
Okay.
one, but I can tell you, for instance, for the writing style.
Yeah.
The black humor, the jokes here and there. It came from Emil Habibi and
Okay.
Aziz Nisin. Aziz
Okay.
Nisin, he is, you know him, the Turkish author. He is the king of black humor. I am not very fascinated by their content, but by writing style, definitely I learned a lot. History, I really admire and tried to follow Brahim Nasrallah, for instance, the Palestinian Jordanian writer, in the part of how he looks at history. In how to design a story inside the story, and the flashback back and forth. There are many great writers who I really learned from them, from the famous ones, Da Vinci Code and Brown and others, to Victor Hugo, to Tolkien, to the Russian writer, and many mainly international writers who inspired me of how to make a traditional story attractive and motivating enough to keep the reader, want to continue and have page after page with a kind of inspiration and fascination. So yeah, many of them, but I could not say that only one that I'm inspired with, and I try to no. Shabbat Goy Kafir Sabt was labeled as a continuation of Al Mutasha'il, which is Emil Habibi novel. Very successful one, since the 70s. And on the other hand, I tried as well to look at the Palestinian-Israeli conflict from an angle of human beings. So, to deal with the other as an enemy or as a human being, it's so different. Most of the Arab literature, when they wrote about Israelis and Jews, they put them in the place of an enemy. For me, it was a place of a human beings to human beings, and I think it made a difference. And this part, I was really learning from Tawfiq Zayad and from Emil Habibi and other Palestinian writers who lived under the Israeli regime and understands what's happening around.
So, what are you currently working on?
Oh, it's very hard to beat yourself, right? So I am trying to beat
Yeah.
myself with the third and last part of this series of novels. I am almost in the end, but now, it's challenging. It's challenging me. It's challenging my intellectual identity. It's challenging from everywhere in the literature corners, let's say, because I'm trying to close the series with some optimistic approaches, right? Because
Mm. Yeah.
it's hard it's hard to lie and to fake the reality. From the other hand, Natasha, it's unfair to close a 15 years project with sad prediction, let's say,
Yeah.
because my last in this series, my last novel will predict what will be happening until 2050.
Oh well. Okay. Is
So
is is the future bright or no?
all the indicators are against what I really want to reflect. So I'm trying, this is my internal struggle now. I'm trying to keep the innovative piece of art with a very reasonable and realistic predictions, along with some optimistic point of view for what will be happening. It's hard, but I will leave it to readers to decide if it was successful or not.
So, do you have any tips for authors, Arab authors, Palestinian authors who want to tell the story of specifically growing up in Jerusalem or East Jerusalem? They wanna follow in your footsteps. What would you tell them?
I hope to. I hope to see more and more authors and writers. And unfortunately, Natasha, we are the minority of the minority because of the political, economical situation. It's not, maybe it's a respectful job to be a writer, but for sure people could not live from it. So I really hope to see new writers, new authors, new innovators who try not only in the literature, maybe in the arts, maybe as well in the music, maybe in the drama, but it's a duty, it's a national duty to reach other societies from the arts point of view and the arts direction, because telling the political narrative, it's boring after 50 years of occupation. And unfortunately, where we are standing today, it's not the best with all what's happening around in the states inside Israel. Look at Israel now. We are with the most extreme government ever, never. So to try to change the reality, we need to have solidarity and to reach to people's hearts and minds. And arts I believe arts, literature, are the easiest way to have a mutual dialogue between minds, to ignore the situation and to ignore from where anybody comes. So it's a message as well for anybody hearing us from Europe at your platform, Natasha. Yes, try, write and write and write and invest enough time, but without reading you could not write. So read and then write, and try to write as much as you can. It took me at least 20 years to make a decision to publish, because it's the most scary part of the business. So don't rush to publish, but keep writing and try as much as you can to reflect the reality, but not as a reporter, but as an artist. Then people will hear you, will understand what you are talking about, and no one can underestimate the impact of a good artistic work especially on the western part of the world, miracles could happen. And every change started from a minority, could be a one person, one individual, one book, one idea. And here, look at the state of Israel, for instance. If you go back to Herzl novel, Antonio Land, 1902, you can see that he drew the shape of the modern state 50 years before 1948. And this shows us how much the power of literature. I know young people now tend to, be addicted to this device, spending time and, hours and hours on social media and on other platforms, wasting valuable time. I could not say just to block it, but if people with talent, I mean, the young generation, invest 1/3 of their time on try to write their stories and to invest in this hobby talent, and then it could be a career in the future, we will be in better situation. When someone asked Emil Habibi why you decide to write, he said, because when I served in the Israeli Knesset, one extreme, right member of the Knesset asked me, where is your literature? If you exist, show me your literature. Because, they have Jabotinsky and they have X and Y, Blaik and others, for a long history writing literature. So if you have literature, you exist. And if you exist, no one can erase you from the map. So this is the message. And I know that it's sometimes it's easy to talk, it's hard to work, but people should try.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I like that quote. If you have literature, you exist. And on that note, thank you so much, Arif, for joining me today for this fascinating, eye-opening discussion. I definitely learned a lot, and I'm sure the readers and the the viewers and the listeners, would also learn new information about the situation that's happening there, and would be inspired to read and write themselves. And for anyone who's listening or watching, make sure to check out Arif Husseini's book. They're on Amazon, including, it's translated in English, it's called Kafir Sabt in Arabic, and in English called Shabbat Goy. And thank you for listening to another episode of Read and Write with Natasha. And until we meet again.